Welcome to Formnext 2024 and welcome to our industry stage. Yeah, we have the expert insight final show keynote right now, so the show is coming to an end, but we have the cherry on the cake for you at the last day. Here at Formnext, you know, we saw tons of products and tons of innovations and solutions of additive. And the kind of red thread through most of the highlight topics here, like skills and talents, or merger and acquisition, or the topic of industrialization, was a question about and how will the future markets develop? And I need to know where to invest. I need to know where to find my company. And as a week is now finally coming to an end, we want to have a kind of a wrap-up look and a market outlook. That is why I'm very happy to have a market insider here on stage who can help us understanding the market growth and the potential. So, dear audience, welcome with me, Dr. Wilderich Heising. Dr. Wilderich Heising is partner and associate director of Boston Consulting Group. And Wilderich, I'm so happy that I have you here with me again. Last year we already shared the stage. Before you start in your presentation, you brought with us exactly for this moment as a wrap up for the whole fair. I just want to know, Boston Consulting Group, you're a worldwide company, you're looking in so many different technologies, in so many different markets. What's the relevance of AM for you, for your company? Mm-hmm. And maybe you can add if on a strategic point of view, did it develop or did it change the point of view for you?
Well, thank you very much for the question, and actually it's an excellent question. So, at BCG we are doing strategy consulting. So we help companies to develop their strategies to survive and to excel in the environment, in the business environment. And BCG was one of the first consultancy companies that realized the transformatory power of additive manufacturing over 1.5 decades ago, basically, when we started to look into that topic in a more granular basis. So I'm an engineer by background. Of course, I'm excited by technology, but we then started to look at it from a business perspective, and over the time built the team, and I have the honor to lead the additive manufacturing unit at BCG. We have conducted over 75 projects in the ecosystem, working for material players, for equipment providers, for service bureaus, and also for the end user of the technology. That helped me to form the perspective on the market. And for BCG, it's part of our larger Industry 4.0 thinking, and as such, additive manufacturing definitely plays a crucial role in the strategies and innovations and technologies of the future.
When you compare it with other mega trends or trends, that's my question. Yeah. Is it a mega trend or a trend, or within a trend? Yeah. A trend? We just had the topic of AI and metaverse. Mm-hmm. When you compare it like this, when you discussing your strategy, how important or where's the place of additive manufacturing in these?
So I mean, we have seen a hype cycle in that industry. So a couple of years ago, everyone thought, wow, that's the next super big thing. And we are now realized that it's a part of the puzzle piece in building a proper strategy for the environment. So I think additive manufacturing definitely has a crucial role in the future, in the arsenal of manufacturers, to make sure that we bring the best products to the customers at the end of the day. And so additive manufacturing is basically on par with other innovations and building together that bright future, actually, that we're talking about.
Yeah, future is a right buzzword for me. Then let's have a look at the future you brought with you. Your presentation, Quo Vadis AM, Key Trends in Additive Manufacturing, a Formnext recap. The stage is yours, Wilderich.
Thank you very much. So, well, Quo Vadis additive manufacturing. Well, we have experienced 4 super intense days, and we could feel the power of innovation in these halls here in hall number 11 and number 12 of this year's Formnext. So, what I want to do today is to bring you into a quick journey into looking in how is the market looking today and what's the outlook for that, but then really recapping what are the key trends that we could observe here at Formnext, and what are the things that will make the change in the future for our industry. So my name is Friedrich Heising. I'm a partner and associate director at the Boston Consulting Group. I joined some 18 years ago. I'm fully focused on operations topics, especially manufacturing and supply chain. And as mentioned, I have the honor to lead our additive manufacturing unit at BCG. And as such, have conducted numerous projects that helped me to form a perspective on the market. And with that, let me dive into today's agenda. So first of all, I would like to go into understanding the market environment that we have today, but also the growth prospects that we see. And then I would like to share with you the four key trends that I've seen here at this year's Formnext. Looking into the market potential today, well, it's not a surprise and it's not a secret. When we look in, basically around us in additive manufacturing, we see that we are undergoing some rapid change at the moment. So the market is facing headwinds. High cost and lower than expected growth cause some of the players to gradually move out of the market. And what we are seeing is that the additive manufacturing industry is now undergoing a phase or a new phase of consolidation centered around a few equipment manufacturers. So last year and this year also, I mean, we've read a lot about Nanodimension's acquisition, but that's just one to name. So there's a lot of action happening, and that's actually not a bad sign. There's always opportunity in these instances, and what we see with that is, and when we compare to other industries, so that is sort of the cycle that as soon as industries mature, we see that consolidation trend going on. And when we think about Formnext like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, basically year over year over year, the startup scene on Formnext doubled the space almost. And it's not backed by scientific evidence, but my gut feeling tells me the startup scene this year is rather smaller compared to the last years. And I think that is a normal sign of that an industry is getting more mature and more serious. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. And at the same time, the growth that we basically projected also in the last years, where we were at the beginning of the hype cycle or at the top of the hype cycle, was rather high. And what we see now is that we see slower growth, but it's a more sustainable growth, because what we can also see when we walk around the halls is that there's an increased trend towards manufacturing use cases. And additive manufacturing can capitalize on ongoing trends towards mass customization, decentralized production, and coping with rising product complexity. So all in all, we think that results in a slower but beyond the hype growth over the next decades, and actually next 2 decades, which can be still quite interesting. So, however, there are a couple of things that we need to consider when speaking about growth. So we think that the winners of that consolidation race that I mentioned can still play in a highly attractive but niche market. When we look at the market size today, we are speaking about a market size of roughly 19 billion US dollars all in. When we look at the chart here, that is in contrast to the global manufacturing market. So today we are speaking about 0.1% of the global manufacturing market that additive manufacturing is taking up. Over the next decade, we think that will grow to roughly 90 billion, and then eventually we will speak about a take rate of 1 to 1.5% of the overarching total manufacturing market. That brings me back to the entering question. So how does additive manufacturing play in the world of manufacturing? Well, additive manufacturing will not crowd out traditional manufacturing. That's what these numbers also tell us, with 1% or 1.5% of the global manufacturing market. But it will be a key puzzle piece for some applications, and it will be another tool in the arsenal of manufacturers to bring product to the customers. However, in order to believe in the market, the growth that we see here on the slide, there are also a couple of need-to-believes in that we need to consider. So first of all, I think that the market will see further consolidation. But as mentioned, consolidation is also an opportunity. So I think we will see fewer players that stick around, and these fewer players will be able to continue technology advancement and focus on those technology advancements towards manufacturing. So that means more robustness, more automation, lower cost, and zero readiness of manufacturing at the end of the day. Those fewer players will also be able to drive an active development of new markets and new applications that also focus on secondary value drivers, not just cost. And I will come to those secondary value drivers when I speak about the trends that I see here at Formnext. Moreover, I think that we will see a continued rise of the service business with increasing contract manufacturing offerings, and so becoming a more, let's say, standardized technology that's out there. And the caveat with the whole thing and the whole growth story here is that we will not see any new disruptive technology that will actually crowd out additive manufacturing over the next 10 years. But I have not seen that on the horizon yet. So with that intro into the market, let me now dive into the key highlights and into some of the key trends that will shape the future of additive manufacturing that we have seen here at Formnext. And I see basically 4 key trends that I want to mention today. So the first one is manufacturing readiness. So basically driving that transition to manufacturing applications. I mean, we all started with rapid prototyping, but when we look around each other, when we look around us, then we see that manufacturing readiness is really a key theme this year, and it will continue to be a theme in the next years. And then the second key trend that I see is, on the one hand side, technology, but then also digital and AI. And we just had the panel on AI. So it's a crucial aspect of how we can actually evolve additive manufacturing by going the next step, by boosting additive manufacturing with robustness on the one hand side, technological robustness, but also with AI and end-to-end software solutions that integrate everything together. Thirdly, sustainability efforts. So while that topic was a bit more dominant in the last years, I think, it's still a thing that we see around, and it's still a very important thing. And I want to give it another spin today, and not just speaking about sustainability in terms of how much energy do we actually consume, as we had it on the panel now, or what about recyclability and so on. No, I want to look at it from the customer perspective. So how does basically additive manufacturing support the sustainability agenda of the users of the technology? And the fourth element that I would like to dive in is material innovation and what we can see here. So, long story short, let's dive right into manufacturing readiness. So to boost manufacturing, that really requires a shift towards tailored solutions, which can only be achieved by focusing on use cases and taking a use case-centric view. So that means on the hardware side, we need to move away from one solution that fits all to use case specific systems and functionalities. And when we look around, especially at the hardware players, then we see that this has changed significantly. When we were on Formnext like 4 years ago, everyone was showing their machines. That was on the center of the booth. Today, maybe there's a machine that stands somewhere at the side, but at the center of the booth, we see use cases and specific functionalities geared towards specific industries. And I think that is a trend that will help to unlock manufacturing applications. Because manufacturers, at the end of the day, they're not so much interested in the technology. They want to know how they can get their problem solved. And the problem is basically a use case the solution to a problem might be the use case that we see on display. On the material side, we are moving from a closed system to an open or semi-open system where we have tailored materials for tailored applications. And when we walk around, we also see a lot of, cross-fertilization, basically, where equipment players showcase those companies and the materials that they use from other companies, basically, on their booth as well. So that system is, that opening up of the material system is, I think, also a crucial step on the material side. And I will come to the material trends also a little bit later. Then on software and digital workflows, we left the times behind us where there was, one software solution for additive manufacturing. We are seeing tailored digital workflows, tailored AI applications, and so on and so forth. And that will be a trend that we'll also see in the future that will boost manufacturing applications. And then also on the customer support services, typically when we start up with things, then a printer breaks down, the technician would come to the printer. But when we are moving into manufacturing use cases, we will actually move also away from these on-premise support more to remote diagnostics and remote predictive preventive maintenance solutions when we are basically maturing the industry here. So in a nutshell, manufacturing requires us to take a use case-centric view. And in order to do that, we need partnerships for tailored solutions. And speaking about partnerships, I witnessed it actually, these are two examples from the Formnext fair this year. Two things that really make me feel very positive about the future of additive manufacturing. So for the couple of years, I was preaching that we need to think about partnership solutions when we want to excel and when we want to bring additive manufacturing to the next level. And I'm very happy to see, for example, the AM Navigator, and we see some iconic brands here that joined forces to build that maturity model for industrializing the additive manufacturing industry and addressing strategy, processes, and organizational readiness. To really, the goal here is to provide structural guidance to the businesses and to the potential users of technology to help them navigate the maze of additive manufacturing and to help them optimize their additive manufacturing processes. Another example that I brought is the Leading Minds Consortium that was established basically also. So the Leading Minds Consortium also, we see a lot of very relevant names in the additive manufacturing world here on that slide. They want to tackle the challenges in adopting and scaling 3D printing technologies. And I think that is a very good sign. These partnerships and this collaborative thinking will help us to bring additive manufacturing to the next level. And speaking about value drivers in additive manufacturing, when we think about manufacturing applications, so of course, direct cost comparison between additively produced parts and traditionally produced parts is an important factor. And I will also come to that development of the savings that additive manufacturing can bring. But it's only, one little element for a user of the technology at the end of the day. There are many more value dimensions. And in additive manufacturing, we need to think about the value that additive manufacturing can bring to the end user of the technology. Because the end user is not interested in the technology. That's sadly truth, but they're not interested in the technology. They're interested in getting their pain points solved and their problems on the shop floor solved when we think about manufacturing. So we need to go there where the problem is, and we need to help the users, the potential users of the technology, identify how we can solve their problem. And then the technology, like additive manufacturing, can play a crucial role in solving that problem. So capacity increase, supply chain resilience, inventory reduction, improved lead times, logistics savings, AM-enabled design choices, ESG benefits. Those are all things that are on the mind of manufacturers, and we just need to unlock that value for the users at the end of the day. So I was speaking about the direct cost savings, and when we look at where we are today, and when we also basically take into consideration the progress that we have made over the last couple of years and the way that we have come already over the last years, it's fair to say when we projected into the future that additive manufacturing will definitely disrupt the way we produce. Costs will come down, and as the cost comes down, both on basically the material dimension, on the machine dimension, and also on the labor dimension, because we automate things more, we will be able to lower basically the break-even point, or bring the break-even point to higher volumes that will help us to also unlock new applications at scale for additive manufacturing. I mentioned that I think that the direct cost comparison is only one element. I would like to show you a case study example from a project that I've done recently with a North American player that helps the energy utility companies to basically produce their parts. And before I go deeper into the value that capacity increase can bring to a player, let me first explain a little bit what this company is about. So they produce parts for the utility companies. And in North America, you have roughly 1,000 utility companies. Each of these utility companies use specific, very dedicated tools and very dedicated parts that only this company is doing. So our company, or the company that I brought the case study with, is a supplier to these utility companies. So think about those 1,000 companies, all have very individual parts. So the USP of that company that we're looking here is they can create any complexity that you need for the market. So they have a vast portfolio of 400,000 different stock keeping units. And this is massive. And then at the same time, they have several stock outs due to supply chain shortages. They have a backlog of $1.5 billion in terms of value in the delivery, and they are maxed out in their capacity in their factories. So And for them, it really doesn't matter whether a part is 2 cents more expensive than before. They need to deliver somehow. And so they didn't want to get rid of the complexity because that's their USP. They want to have their complexity, but they want to be able to double down on this complexity benefit that they have and still be able to reduce the backlog and to supply the products. So what we have done is we thought that about leveraging additive manufacturing and then rolling that out to the low volume products. Because if you have a portfolio of 400,000 units, then of course you have some parts which go with batch sizes of 10,000, 20,000 units, and there you have your traditional manufacturing lines that are super efficient and effective in producing those parts. But at the same time, you also have those batch sizes where you have the batch size of 50, the batch size of 100 units maybe. And that really kills your efficiency and the productivity on the traditional manufacturing lines if you need to do the changeover constantly. So what we've done is we've basically built a tool which is called the AMOS tool, the Additive Manufacturing Opportunity Screening Tool, where we basically put in all these different products and the properties of the products. We validated the technical feasibility. Then in the second step, we assessed the economic viability to move a part from a traditional to an additively manufactured part. And then we identified the best and most suitable additive manufacturing technology to actually produce that part. That unlocked basically a gross profit impact per year of roughly $100 million US. So quite sizable actually for that company. And how we did that is basically we can see by that illustration here. So think about the low volumes or low volume products, batch size of 50, batch size of 100, that are blocking capacity on your traditional manufacturing line, which you want to really fully utilize, where you want to have highly efficient runs and so on and so forth. But with those low volume series, when we look at a given shift, then we see that basically 25% of the shift was actually production time, and 75% was changeover time, because you needed to change over basically every hour after you had that small production run. And by taking these additive manufacturing volumes off that line, we could unlock the potential, and with larger series, we could now have a production run time of 75%. And just 25% of changeover. So we just swapped that around, that relationship, and that really helped the company to reduce their backlog, to focus on where they can add, where basically we add value to the customers at the end of the day. And then it really doesn't matter when the part is 2 cents more expensive. Yeah? So long story short, what I want to say with that is we need to really go into the shoes or put ourselves into the shoes of the manufacturers and understand where is their problem, how can we create value for them, and the second question then is how can additive manufacturing make a difference here. So my key takeaway for the manufacturing side is basically to unlock growth really requires to rethink how we offer additive manufacturing and how we address the users. So while the early adopters of additive manufacturing were willing to experiment, were willing to try out things, and were willing to have the one-size-fits-all machine and material and did some magic to that, when we want to go to manufacturing, then we need another experience of additive manufacturing. To basically lower adoption hurdles, we need to establish a it just works experience. So you buy a printer, you bring it into your manufacturing shop floor. Of course, you need to do some adjustments of that, but then it should have a high right first time level. You should be able to integrate the additive manufacturing production processes into your general factory shop floor applications, and combine it with the manufacturing execution system and so on and so forth, to just have another tool in the arsenal of manufacturing technologies. And we need dedicated solutions to solve specific problems. So with that, let me dive into the second element, into technology, digital and AI. So we have come a long way when we think about the advancements in the past. And let me jump to that page directly. So what we see at this year's Formnext is, I think, two key themes in this block. So one is technology advancements, and the other thing is software embedding and Gen AI. On the technology advancement side, I think what we can see is not new fancy new printers with even now 100 lasers or something like that. No, we see robustness and durability. So the equipment manufacturers are doubling down on enhanced durability, on enhanced robustness, and process security of their printers. And that will help us to actually integrate those printers into the production environment. We see also automation coming through quite significantly. So automation in the sense that it enables continuous unattended 3D printing, where we have longer production runs where we don't need basically a person at the machine all the time. So reducing the manual labor and thus improving efficiency in the processes. And also improving efficiencies basically in the post-processing steps and automating that a bit more. And we see production speeds picking up. So the latest printers improve productivity by up to 50%. But at the same time, what I also see is that when we speak about robustness, automation, and production speed, it's also about upgradability of existing machines. Yeah, so while in the past we basically had a new machine every year coming on stream, and that's the new greatest thing. So now the equipment manufacturers think about how we can actually upgrade our installed base, and so that also helps basically to convince the users of the technology to actually do a buying decision at the end of the day and buy a printer because they know next year or in 2 years or 3 years I can still upgrade that machine. I don't need to basically scrap it and buy a new one. So I think a lot of things are happening on the technology advancement side to robustify the experience, and that also, of course, leads into a higher manufacturing application. On the other side, we see a lot of software topics this year on the Formnext. So where we have software corporations, where we help us to have that digital integration of software, advanced software, connecting 3D printers with the shop floor of factories and so on. And we see a lot of Gen AI applications that help us to have generative AI, simplifying the 3D modeling, simplifying the orientation, simplifying and supporting basically how we run the lasers and so on and so forth. So a lot of things are happening here. Third trend, sustainability efforts. I would like to take a bit of a different perspective on the sustainability efforts and think and look at it through the lens of the user of the technology. So how can additive manufacturing actually drive forward the sustainability agenda of manufacturers, of the users of the technology? And when we look at that, okay, rather complex slide with a lot of words on there. The simple message basically is when we look at the value life cycle of a product, so product design, raw material sourcing, production process, product delivery, product usage, product disposal. So and then when we think about what are levers that additive manufacturing are bringing to the table in order to support the sustainability agenda of our clients at these angles, I think we can also have a different discussion or another discussion with the clients, because at the end, again, coming back to the value point, we help to solve a value problem that users of the technology have. So one of the value problems that they have is that their customers eventually also expect a positive impact on sustainability when they buy the product of that manufacturer. So how can that manufacturer with their products have a positive impact on sustainability? Well, here are some of these examples. So when additive manufacturing allows for an optimized design where we can have lighter products, you use less CO2 emissions, or you generate less CO2 emissions during the usage, basically. Similar on raw material sourcing. With additive manufacturing, you can bring the material there where it's needed in the product. We can reduce material usage of natural resources. We can shorten delivery cycles and shorten delivery lanes, so having a positive impact on the transportation side when it comes to CO2. So a lot of things that we need to think through, and not just saying, okay, what's the energy consumption of our printer and what's basically the rate of virgin material that we use in our printers. So it's really, again, my message, let's think where we can generate value for the end user and to build that story. Looking a bit at the time here, let me move on to material innovation. And on the material innovation side, we see also here on this year's Formnext a lot of new advancements also for sustainability and diversity. So first of all, we see cost efficiency of the materials. So cost is coming down while we are moving from that closed to an open system. And when we look at the material prices, we see quite a decline actually there. So that allows us to unlock new applications at scale, basically. Second element, again, sustainability, but here not from the customer angle, but sustainability of the process of the material itself. So we see a lot of bio-based and recycled polymers, so less virgin material used in the production processes. We also see, when we look at the materials that are used for photopolymers and so on and so forth, a trend towards less hazardous chemicals in those materials, and quite some advancement in that area. And then the third element is basically features and diversity of the product. So we see high performance polymers, we see composites now available that were not available 2 to 3 years ago. We see conductive materials, we see flexible materials, biocompatible and absorbable polymers that also can go inside the body. So a lot of advancements here. And again, coming back to the value question at the beginning, so we need to identify specific use cases and applications with specific materials and specific printers. And I think we are making a big step towards the specificity that we see there. So with that, my key takeaways of today's talk, and basically also of my visit to the Formnext, is that, first of all, the additive manufacturing market is undergoing a consolidation phase and faces quite significant headwinds. When you look at the last 2 years in the additive manufacturing industries, a lot of players tell me that they had a very harsh time. But I think the signs are coming together that the next months are going to be better than the last. So I heard some positive signals here as well. So I think we are still on a growth trajectory, a bit slower growth, but still reaching roughly 90 billion in the next decade, and then going over the next 2 to 3 decades to a take rate of 1 to 1.5% of the global manufacturing market. So quite a sizable market eventually. Then advancements, what we'll see over the next years are manufacturing readiness. It will be a doubling down on technology, digitalization and AI, on sustainability and on material innovations. And this will shape the future of additive manufacturing. And last but not least, and that's always the angle we should also take, additive manufacturing unlocks value in manufacturing through multiple levers. It's not just the direct cost comparison, but we need to find those opportunities and where we can help the users of the technology, and that will further grow, will further fuel the growth that's not yet unlocked. With that, thank you very much. If you want to have some further reading, as mentioned, we have been one of the first consultancy companies to realize the transformatory power of additive manufacturing and have been regularly publishing stuff. And if you have any further questions, let's raise them now. We still have roughly 1.5 minutes, or send me an email or contact me via LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a round of applause for Wilderich. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's very impressive to have such an in-depth look at the numbers. We had a discussion here one on the other time that US is investing a lot into new technologies like AM. In China, everybody says, okay, we don't know the right numbers, we do not have the figures, but what we think there is a lot of money going into the investment. And in Europe, there is the mood of nobody is doing anything for us to push and to hold against these the two big markets. What's your opinion on this topic?
Yeah, so agree. So in Europe, we are facing harsh times at the moment. So when we look at interest rates, when we look at the general market environment, especially where we're here in Germany at the moment, people are pushing a bit on the brake in terms of capex spending. I think we'll overcome those times. So there are always times in the history when certain areas are a bit weak. At the moment, Europe is a bit weak in terms of capital spending, but you mentioned the US. I think we see a bit of an uptake there as well, quite significantly in spending on additive manufacturing. Yeah, China is also a very interesting market. Also, when we look around here, then we see a lot of Chinese players that are promoting their products here. So it's a very interesting development, and it fuels basically the dynamics and also the rapid change that we're seeing at the moment here in the market.
And where do we have to look at whom? Who must be the one to make the government spending funding? I don't get which kind of funding that should be to help the market, and who would be the right person or entity to force or to give a backwind to some funding project. What you could mention here next year? Oh, that was very helpful. So that it really helps growing.
Yeah. So I think one of the key things is that none of the players in the industry would be strong enough to actually do that. But what we have seen here on the Formnext and what I also presented on these initiatives where we see partnerships coming together, I think that is a major unlock. When we have those partnerships along the players.
You mentioned AMI Navigator, for example.
The AMI Navigator or the Leading Minds Consortium, basically, that are forming together. When we bring the players of the additive manufacturing together to speak with one voice, then we elevate basically also our standing towards governments, towards programs and incentives there. So I think that is a key trend, or that's a key step to form these partnerships to take the next level in additive manufacturing.
Okay, and additional, we had the partnerships here. We had Spain at the stage. We had Finland at the stage, and they want to close together to have a single voice as well. So that would help too.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Wilderich, and again applause for your insights.
Thank you.
And I wish you a very good rest of the day and a good talkings here. And if you want to make contact to Wilderich, you know we had the LinkedIn live stream, and there you can have a comment, and then I'm sure you will look at these and give an answer.
Absolutely.
There. So thank you very much, and again a big applause.
Thank you.
So the audience, we are approaching the end of the international melting spot of additive manufacturing worldwide here in Frankfurt at Formnext 2024. After a short commercial break, we will sit together in our last afterwork session and welcoming the movers and makers of Formnext.